Hello and good morning. Thanks for joining us today. Apologies for the few minutes late and the change in time that was put up in terms of broadcasting. My name is Claire Powell. I'm currently the Education USA advisor here in Johannesburg, South Africa. And our last presentation or webinar that we are undertaking this week is with regards to standardized testing. For university admissions, so whether it be undergraduate or graduate studies. My name, so basically what we're going to discuss today is multiple tests, but tests that they have, but essentially more so the ones that are most important, being the SAT, the ACT, and the GRE for graduate admissions. Okay. Let me just pull up the presentation here for you. So this is our last webinar in a series of webinars that we are having in commemoration of Education Week, International Education Week. And I've really and thoroughly enjoyed all the presentations that we've had this week. It's been, quite an experience, and I've loved having the access to share this information virtually for those students. A little bit about Education USA. So we are a State Department funded program and most of the advisors, at least from a sub-Saharan Africa context, are based at US embassies and consulates around the region. And so we have 3 centers right here in South Africa. We have myself based in Johannesburg. We have Alice King in Cape Town, who's responsible for the Eastern, Western, and Northern Capes. We have our advisor in Durban, at our consulate in Durban, Susan Knowles, who's responsible for KZN, and then myself responsible for the remaining provinces. So what we're going to be kind of concentrating on is the dreaded tests that everybody, actually most of our most common inquiry at the centers tends to be with regards to, standardized testing. So we're really going to try and keep a concentration on that today. Okay. So let me just share my screen here with you so you can actually see what we are talking about, and we can get started on the presentation. Okay. So as I said before, we're going to concentrate on the SAT, ACT, and GRE test. But just understanding all the different types of tests that they are involved from a university admissions point of view. So there are English language tests that are maybe required at both an undergraduate or graduate levels. So there's TOEFL, which we'll speak a little bit more in depth about, but this is a test of English as a foreign language, which is probably the most widely accepted one of the tests. There's also the International English Language Testing System, the IELTS, which is offered by the British Council, and also quite widely accepted as a comparison to the TOEFL. A lot of universities are now looking at taking the Duolingo test as an option, English test that you can take online, because it is free and is not as much of a cost burden as say the the TOEFL or the IELTS is. There's also the Pearson test of English, which is also used, but is not as widely used as a TOEFL or IELTS. So TOEFL and IELTS is going to be generally the ones that you may have to take. And why I say may have to take is because students, from a South African context, because we are an quote unquote, officially English speaking country. If you have gone to an English medium high school or an English medium university and have taken core courses with your classes in English, generally you can have this requirement waived, especially if you're showing a good grade or mark in English, especially at a high school level. Sometimes you can also have this waived by taking other admission, like academic ability tests, and getting a good score on the verbal section of that. So with regards to admissions tests or academic ability tests, there are two types for undergraduate, and a number of kinds for graduate, depending on kind of what level and what you're hoping to do. So undergraduate, the two most common types of admission tests are the SAT, or the Scholastic Aptitude Test, and the ACT, which is the Academic College Test. These are used interchangeably. I wouldn't say one is preferred over the other. In prior years, the SAT was more popular internationally because it was more widely available, but that's not necessarily true anymore. The ACTs actually offered more widely, and it's becoming more popular because it's an online test versus a paper-based test, as the SAT. With regards to graduate study, so master's and PhD level study, the most common ones would be the GRE, or the Graduate Record Exam, and the GMAT, which is the Graduate Management Academic Test, okay, or aptitude test rather. So GRE is pretty much for all levels of study, and we'll speak about a little bit more kind of what the GRE could be used for. The GMAT tends to focus more on business-related MBA studies. There are some other less commonly taken tests, such as the LSAT, for people who are looking to go do a Juris Doctorate degree in the United States. Okay, so that's your basic level, in order to become a practicing lawyer in the United States. This wouldn't be the case if you're looking to do a Master's of Law and LLM in the United States. Generally, you don't have to take any testing for that. An MCAT, which is basically the test for students who are looking to go to medical school in the United States. That might be a test that one may have to take. It's less commonly taken abroad. Staying in the medical field, the USMLE is basically a standardized testing for foreign doctors to undertake their residency in the United States. And there's also the dental admission test for people who are looking to go to dental school to become dentists. Okay, but as I said today, what we really are going to concentrate on is the SAT exam and the ACT. So undergraduate's basics, when it comes to standardized tests, these are one of the most widely used college admission tests in the United States. Many schools use it as placement and for academic counseling, as well as scholarships and merit aid. It helps students show colleges that they know what they can do. It's fair. Often with the ACT and SAT, the questions are rigorously researched and tested to make sure students from all backgrounds who have equal levels of preparation have an equal chance to do well. There are many universities that are subscribing to test optional policies, or so not making the SAT or the ACT a requirement, especially for international students, because they feel like it's not indicative of how you will perform at a university. So you can follow that link there, fairtest.org, to see which ones used as an optional basis of admission. I will put a caveat on that though. There are some universities that may not use these tests for admission purposes, but they will want it for scholarship purposes. So when it comes to regards to the SAT, there's two types of tests. Generally, and in most cases, students have to take the SAT reasoning test, potentially with an optional essay. Some students who are looking to go or apply to more uber selective universities, or perhaps are looking at a specific field of study like engineering, may have to take additional subject tests. And we'll kind of go into what those subject tests are, so you can have a basic understanding before we go on to the general SAT. So a little bit about the SAT subject tests. Subject tests are 60 minutes each, multiple choice questions. You may take up to 3 tests in one exam sitting. You could take 1, you could take 2, but essentially you are allowed to take up to 3. Each test is an hour long. Okay, so basically you can take 3 in the same time as the room next door will be taking the general reasoning test. It's the same sort of time allotment. The basic fee is about $26 for the subject test and then $26 for each subject taken. Please note that there's a $41 international fee too. So that can add up in terms of prices, you know, in general. Offered more frequently, they are offered a little bit more frequently than the SAT, and you'll see kind of in the comparison of the timings, but they are offered, the test dates are October, November, December, May, and June. So you can see that there's 5 test dates there versus the regular SAT's 4 test dates. Some sample tests are available for free on the College Board website. So College Board is the administrator of this test. So you would visit sat.collegeboard.org, and you can find a lot of free materials there. And I don't think many people know about the free materials that are available online. So a little bit about each of the subject tests. There are 2. They'll have math tests in addition to what would be math on the regular exam. So mathematics level 1 is one of the subject options. So it assesses mathematics knowledge, 3 years of high school mathematics coursework. So generally 2 years of algebra, 1 year of geometry. Mathematics level 2, this is probably one of the more requested requirements of, say, somebody who wants to go do engineering. So it assesses mathematics knowledge through the first 3 years of a high school mathematics coursework and some pre-calculus. So generally 2 years of algebra, 1 year of geometry, and elementary functions of pre-calculus and or trigonometry. Moving on to the sciences, so you'll have biology, EM, so you can choose if you want to take ecological and molecular. Assesses understanding of your general biology, covers knowledge of fundamental concepts, application and interpretation skills. Biology E will focus on biological communities, populations, and energy flow. Biology M focuses on biochemistry, cellular structure, and processes such as respiration and photosynthesis. Tongue twister. Course prep work, 1 year biology course, 1 year in algebra and familiarity with algebraic concepts such as ratios, not rations, my dear goodness, and direct and inverse proportions. Laboratory experience can be helpful in this regard. Chemistry, okay, covers the major concepts of chemistry and the ability to apply these concepts in problem-solving scenarios. It requires the ability to organize and interpret results obtained by observation and experimentation. 1 year course in chemistry is helpful. Familiarity with algebraic relationships and applying these to solving word problems. And then again, familiarity with simpler algebraic concepts such as ratios and direct inverse proportions, exponents, and scientific notation. Laboratory experience is also helpful. Physics, definitely did not like this one in high school myself, but it essentially assesses understanding of major concepts and ability to apply these principles to solve specific problems. 1 year physics course, familiarity with simple algebraic, trigonometric, and graphical relationships such as concepts as well as concepts with ratios and proportions, and ability to apply these physics problems. Familiarity with the metric system, bonus to all of us as South Africans, it's what we do, it's a metric system, and laboratory experience can be helpful in this regard. What I would say with physics, especially when it comes to the South African curriculums, is that you might need to get some additional assistance from your physical science teachers, because not everything that is covered on the exam is covered on the matric syllabuses. Okay. Literature, moving on to more of the English subjects, assesses how well a student has learned to read and interpret literature. So this may cover poetry, prose, and drama in English and American literature from the Renaissance to the present. So 3 to 4 years of high school literary study is important. Moving on to the histories. So it assesses knowledge and ability to use material commonly taught in US history and social studies courses in high school. So it covers political, economic, social, intellectual, and cultural history, as well as foreign policy from pre-Columbian history to the present. 1 year course in US history helps in that. don't know, I haven't seen, I think I've maybe had one South African in my many years as an advisor take a US history subject test. Probably more often than not, a student would look at the world history. Just a little bit to know that the world history subject test is only going to be offered in the June or the December offerings of the test. So it's important to look at that. Essentially, world history assesses understanding of key developments in global history, the application and weighing of evidence, and the ability to interpret and generalize. Covers the development of major world cultures in all historical fields, political and diplomatic, intellectual and cultural, and social and economic. So 1-year course in world history should help with this. In addition to those subjects, there are many language-based subject tests. There are reading-only ones and ones that have listening components to it. So you can see they're French, German, modern Hebrew, Spanish, Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. And it basically assesses the ability to read by testing vocabulary use, language structure, and comprehension of a variety of texts, and assesses listening comprehension. So 2 to 4 years of study in high school or equivalent, or 2 years of strong preparation would be good for these languages. Okay. So we've got the subject test out of the way, but as I said, they generally are not required for most test takers, and would really only be for very select fields of study or universities. The general SAT that most students would have to take is the SAT reasoning test. So essentially this is a comparison chart of what the old test was from 2 years ago to what the new one is. But essentially what you want to pay attention is to the details on the right-hand side of the screen. So they have basically taken the test and they're looking at reading. So this is your reading comprehension, okay, of a variety of texts and a number of different areas of study. But there's basically the time allotted for it is 65 minutes to answer 52 questions. You'll have writing and language. So this will be testing English language conventions, you know, your grammar usage, you know, various aspects on writing and language. So you can see how kind of a combination of reading and writing language will really, how a university could use this in place of, say, an English test, especially if you score well. But essentially on the writing and language section, you have 35 minutes to answer 44 questions. So you can see kind of the time pressure that starts to get involved with the SAT. So the optional essays, so the essay used to be a requirement, now it's just optional, but essentially, I think there are about 28 universities and colleges that require the essay to be written. And of course, they tend to be the more selective institutions, but many more of them are not necessarily looking for it. So kudos to you if all the universities you're applying to don't really necessarily need it, because then you don't have to take it, which could save you a little bit. But essentially, this is a one question or one task, and you have 15 minutes to complete it. Mathematics, you will have 80 minutes to complete 58 questions. Okay, so some of the basics. So total testing time is about 3 hours, plus 50 minutes if you're taking the SAT with essay. There are 2 sections or 3 with the essay. So evidence-based reading and writing and mathematics. Again, the essay is optional. The nice thing about the changes that they made in the SAT is that now there's no penalty for guessing. Okay, and the score scale is between 400 and 1600 or 200 to 800 on each section, if you want to call it. So, and the essay is scored separately for a score range of about 2 to 8, from 2 to 8. Okay. So a little bit about the SAT. So it's right-only scoring. Students earn points for each correct answer they get. There's no penalty for guessing, which becomes a very useful strategy when taking this exam. Students are encouraged to read each question and select the answer they best think, or what they think is best. Okay, we'll go over some tips for the SAT. Actually, the SAT and the ACT, because they kind of are good tips for both. There's no obscure vocabulary, not that there isn't vocabulary, but there's no obscure vocabulary. So the new SAT focuses on words that students are most likely to use again throughout college and their career. Students won't see words such as predicate or cessaceous. They will need to understand how words like synthesis and alleviate are used in context. So sometimes it's more about how is the word being used in the context of what you're reading. So it's more focused math than the previous test. So it focuses on math skills most widely used in college and career. Most questions are multiple choice. Calculators are only allowed on only one section. So you'll have two sections of mathematics that you'll write on the day, two different time sections. There'll be a shorter section that is non-calculator and a larger section that allows you to use your calculator. And that is done deliberately because essentially both math sections could be done without a calculator. What they are trying to have you do is look at when it's more appropriate to use a calculator. Like, you really shouldn't be using a calculator to do 15 times 15. If you know basic timetables, you should be able to do that math quickly in your head. And because it's a time-sensitive type of exam, these strategies become quite important. Analysis, not opinion. So the difference with the SAT essay is that it's not an opinion. It doesn't want an opinion. Okay, essentially it's asking a student to provide a written analysis of text using critical reasoning skills to show how an author builds an argument and use evidence from the test to support the analysis. So students should check individual college websites to see if schools require this, as I said before. With the essay, it's important to kind of focus more on kind of the style. Perhaps the author uses expert opinion, statistics, figurative language. Like, what elements are they using to make their argument versus you putting an opinion on their argument? Okay, how do they build it? Also, to understand, and again, as I said before, a lot of people don't take advantages, but there's free official SAT practice on Khan Academy, which is available on the College Board website. So these are personalized practice pathways provided to each student. They have full-length practice tests and thousands of sample questions. So I believe now there's up to 8 free practice tests that one can take on the College Board website now, which is great. And it's accessible through any computer with internet access. You can also print materials. A little secret that not a lot of people know. So they have an official printed SAT study guide, but you could look online and tap, official SAT guide PDF, and you'll actually see a link on the College Board's website to essentially their official guide in PDF format. So that's just a little tip for you guys to be aware of. And especially with our postage and how it is today, and the cost, there's something for free. So a little bit in terms of assessed content and sample questions. So the reading and writing overview. So evidence-based reading and writing section comprises of the reading test and the writing and language test. So the text complexity is looking at 9th grade through 1st year post-high school. So the emphasis on the source analysis and use of evidence. There's also the inclusion of data and informational graphics. There's a focus on words in context and on word choice for rhetorical effect. Okay, and students work with text in literature, science, and social studies. So they're not necessarily testing your science and social studies knowledge, but they want you to be comfortable reading those types of texts. So the overall aim of the reading test is to determine whether students can demonstrate college and career readiness, proficiency in comprehending broad range of high quality, appropriately challenging literature, and informational texts in the context areas of US and world literature, history, social studies, and science. The test will comprise of a series of passages and associated multiple choice questions. Some question sets will refer to paired passages and others will only refer to one passage. Students must refer to specific language in the passages and use careful reasoning to draw supportable inferences. Okay, so there's an example here that one could look at. Okay. I'm just giving you some time to read through that. Okay. So the question of this is the main rhetorical effect of the series of 3 phases in lines 5 through 6, the diminution, the subversion, and the destruction, is to A, convey with increasing intensity the seriousness of the threat Jordan sees to the Constitution. B, clarify that Jordan believes the Constitution was first weakened, then sabotaged, then broken. Indicate that Jordan thinks the Constitution is prone to failure in 3 distinct ways. D, propose a 3-part agenda for rescuing the Constitution from the current crisis. So having a think about that. So the content, rhetoric, and analyzing word choice. Objective, students must determine the main rhetorical effect of the speaker's choice of words. Okay. So the answer is A. Convey with increasing intensity the seriousness of the threat Jordan sees to the Constitution. Choice A is the best answer because the quoted phrases building from diminution to subversion to destruction suggest the increasing seriousness of the threat Jordan sees to the Constitution. Okay, now the little trick about a lot of the reading and writing questions is, well, you're going to have an answer that is the most correct, one that's sort of correct, maybe one that's and one that's incorrect in most cases. And you've got to really find out what in my opinion, the most correct, the most concise, and the most clear answer. And that can sometimes be hard to do. So a tip and advice for the reading and writing section would be to cover up the answer choices and see if you can come up with a predictive answer for the question that's being asked of you, and then see if any of the answer choices best match your predicted answer. Writing and language test overview assesses college and career readiness, proficiency in revising and editing a range of texts, and it does not require students to provide written responses. Okay, so multiple choice questions only. It tends to a core set of standard English language conventions and to effective written expression. Some passages or questions will be accompanied by representations of data. So this might be tables, charts, graphs, and etc. All passages will be written specifically for the test. The most common question format will require students to choose from the best 3 alternatives to an indicator part of the passage, often an underlined portion, okay? Or to determine that the version presented in the passage is the best option. So here's an example, all right? I'll give you a minute to read through. So as you can see, through this example, you notice that there's a bracketed number 2. So generally that's going to refer to the question, appropriate question. So you see there, right, directly where it is, you have an option of A, no change, B, box, full stop, from just a few primary colors, comma, C, box from just a few primary colors, comma, D, box, comma, from just a few primary colors. So the content is standard English conventions or conventions of punctuation. Students must create 2 grammatically complete and standard sentences. So which one is correct? B, box, dot, from just a few primary colors, comma. Choice B is the best answer because it provides punctuation that creates 2 grammatically complete and standard sentences. Okay. Optional essay overview. Students who opt to take the SAT essay are required to make purposeful, substantive use of textual evidence in a way that can be objectively evaluated. The essay task is not designed to elicit students' subjective opinions. The prompt will remain consistent for all administrations of the SAT, only the writing passages will change. Students will receive a score, 3 scores of 2 to 8 in reading, writing, and analysis. Okay. As you read the passage below, consider how the author uses evidence, such as facts or examples, to support a claim, reasoning to develop ideas to connect claims and evidence, or stylistic or persuasive elements such as word choice or appeals to emotion to add power to the ideas expressed. So taking those elements, you need to look at the source text, okay? Write an essay in which you explain how the author builds an argument to persuade his or her audience that the author's claim in your essay. Analyze how the author uses one or more features listed above, okay, the evidence, reading, or stylistic or persuasive elements, okay, or features of your own choice to strengthen the logic and persuasiveness of his or her argument. Be sure that your analysis focuses on the most relevant aspects of the passage. Your essay should not explain whether you agree with the author's claims, but rather explain how he or she builds an argument. Okay. Sorry. Getting ahead of myself there, getting clicky. Oh, excuse me. Never mind. Let's just move on. You get the point. So math. Focus on content that matters most for college and career readiness. Assesses fluency with understanding of and ability to apply mathematical concepts. So algebra and linear equations, problem solving and data analysis, and then advanced mathematical practices. Certain key elements will be woven through the math test. Emphasis on mathematical application and reasoning. Problems from a range of disciplines, addressing real-world problems drawn from science, social studies, and careers. Inclusion of both calculator and no calculator portions, as well as attention to the use of calculator as a tool. So going back to what I said before, is a calculator necessary on a certain question? Includes both multiple choice questions and student-produced responses of about 4 digits. So here's an example. What is one possible solution for the equation? Another tip I would always say is actually read the question. And when you're looking for your choice, does the choice answer the question that's being asked of you? Because they will potentially have a different part, especially if it's a multiple part problem that you're trying to solve, they're going to have trick answers within the multiple choice section. Okay. So this is an example from the non-calculator section. Requires students to look at the structure of expression and find ways to rewrite it. Again, showing the link between fluency and mathematical practices. The student must transform the expression without a calculator. For example, by multiplying both sides of the equation by a common denominator as a first step to find the solution. Okay, so this would be a student-produced response or grid in question. Students will not be given answer choices. Instead, they must fill in the grid with their answers. Approximately 20% of the math test contains student-produced response questions. And this would be, in terms of content, possible to advanced math. Okay, so in this problem, multiplying both sides of the equation by the common denominator. Okay, multiplication and simplification then yields 12x minus 36. X2 minus 1, or x2 minus 12x plus 35 is equal to 0. Factoring the quadratic gives you x minus 5 or x minus 7 is equal to 0. So the solutions occur at x equals 6 and x equals 7, both of which should be checked in the original equation to ensure that they are not extraneous. In this case, both values are solutions, and you could put either or on and get it correct. So this is just to look at what the scores would have. So you have your total score, your section scores, and you might have some further cross-test scores or sub-scores. Really the ones that you need to concentrate are number 1 and number 2, so total score and section scores. How do these tests impact instruction in science, social studies, and career relatedness? So cross-test scores will include a score for analysis in science and analysis in history and social studies derived from the following. Texts used for analysis in reading and writing and language may have foundations in these content areas. Okay, at least one text used on the reading test for analysis will be U.S. founding documents. Okay, so such as the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, or from Great Global Conversation. So it might be, one of Nelson Mandela's or Gandhi's speeches, something of that nature. Tables and graphs and data may relate to topics in these content areas too. Math problems may have science or social science contexts. So practice and resources. As I said again, Khan Academy has a lot. Please take advantage of this. I'm not going to go too much more in depth, but you can read and pause the screen if you want to. Some other tips. All questions count the same. Answer the easy ones first. Don't be misled, because we all have our own personal order of difficulty, and I think that's important to realize, is that don't feel like you have to go in order with the mathematics, or necessarily within the questions after a certain passage. Of course, don't jump between passages, but answer the questions you feel are the easiest. Then you can go to the most time-consuming and then the most difficult. Don't be misled by an answer that looks correct but is not supported by the text. You must keep track of time. Eliminate choices where you can. Read carefully. Are you actually answering the question that is asked of you? Use your test booklet as scratch paper. Number 2 pencil, if you ever see this reference, is an HB pencil. No mechanical or clutch pencils. Bring a snack and a drink to be kept under your desk during breaks. And then register and sign up for Khan Academy. Okay. Use evidence to support your arguments. Build your reading stamina. Always analyze the informational graphics. Get excited about US founding documents. Practice your editing. Put away the calculator some of the time. Again, know when to use it. Okay. Check your answers. Answer every question on the test. No points will be deducted. They recommend using a scientific, so normal Casio, or graphing calculator. Sophisticated calculators aren't necessary. Know how to use your calculator. That is probably my best advice as well. Like, understand the radians and degrees, and actually how to get the answers you need from a calculator. Do not use a calculator that has cell phone capability, a digital audio video player, a camera, or has wireless capability. Uses paper or requires electrical outlet. You will not be allowed to. In closing, take a full-length mock test and score it yourself. Okay. All registration and payments for the test is done online, as is pretty much every single test. Paper registration for Sunday test takers, you can get those here from the embassy. Okay. The cost for an SAT with essay altogether is about $105.50. So $64.50 for the test and $41 as an international processing. There are 4 test dates: October, December, March, and May, and they tend to be the first Saturdays of those months in the morning. The testing centers, okay, this is more than just the Johannesburg region, but in South Africa. So there's 5 test centers in Gauteng, 3 centers in Cape Town, 2 in Durban, and there is also a test center in Mafeking at the international school there, and the Boma School in Bloemfontein. Okay, when you are registering, you'll be able to see all the open test dates in the area near you. Additional resources available for this: books on to learn from Education USA libraries, so speak to your nearest advisor. Group sessions, if advisors are holding them, or one-on-one sessions. And what I say about this is that, depending on the advising center, I know like Cape Town, they have a lot of peer tutoring that they have. Form an SAT study group with your friends who may live close to you. The ACT test. Okay. So the ACT assesses a student's college readiness in subject areas of English, mathematics, reading, and science. Students may also take the ACT plus writing, which includes a 30-minute writing exam. The ACT serves a similar function to the SAT in that both are used by colleges and universities as a factor in admissions. So some ACT basics: total testing time, 2 hours and 55 minutes, plus 30 minutes if you're taking the ACT with writing. 4 sections, 5 with writing. Okay. Evidence-based reading, writing, and mathematics, very similar. Science as well. Essay optional, no penalty for guessing. Multiple choice tests on a score scale of 1 through 36. An essay can be scored separately. A little bit about the format. So the ACT consists of a total of 215 questions. You're given a total of 175 minutes to complete the test. Okay. The table below lists the sections of the test in more detail. So ACT English, you have 45 minutes to answer 75 questions, covers punctuation, grammar usage, and sentence structure. It also tests your rhetorical skills in strategy, organization, and style. Okay. ACT Math, 60 minutes to answer 60 questions. So it covers basic mathematical skills that are typical for a student at the end of 11th grade. You will be tested on pre-algebra, elementary algebra, intermediate algebra, coordinate geometry, plane geometry, and trigonometry. ACT Reading, 35 minutes for 40 questions. Evaluate your reading comprehension. You'll be given 4 passages and use your referring and reasoning skills to identify main ideas, locate important details, understand sequences of events, and make comparisons. Okay. ACT Science, 35 minutes to 40 questions. So you can see this is not actual science, but measures your skills in natural sciences. You will be evaluated on your interpretation, analysis, evaluation, and reasoning and problem solving of science-related texts. Okay. You don't have to do any science experiments. All right. So you can see some similarities between the ACT and the SAT. The difference now is that the ACT is an online-based test now. It is not a paper-based test any longer. It's offered 5 times a year in South Africa on a Friday or a Saturday. You could do a morning or an afternoon sessions on those days. As it currently stands, the test dates available are September, October, December, April, and June. Okay. ACT registration is done online at act.org. The test centers that are currently open are one in Midrand, so between Johannesburg and Pretoria, okay, and one in Durban, KZN. I believe it's the CTU test centers, and there are more. The ACT is looking to open more centers in and around South Africa. The cost is about $118, $67 for the ACT with writing, okay, and $51 international processing fee. Some resources, go online to the website for free resources to study and practice mock tests. Kaplan, the study prep company, has teamed up with ACT, much like Khan Academy has with SAT, to offer free prep online. So please visit www.act.org, start a study group, and also join the ACT Club online. So you see the website there, africa.actclub.org. There's a lot of free materials and guidance and interaction that you can get involved with there. The GRE test. So the GRE general test is used around the world for master's programs, MBA programs, specialized masters in business programs, doctoral programs, and awarding fellowships. Okay, scores are good for 5 years. The GRE basics. So it's a 3-hour and 45-minute test, computer-based test. Okay, verbal, quantitative, and analytical writing. Okay, scores are between 130 and 170 per qualitative and verbal sections, and then you'll have an analytical writing score, okay, separately on a scale of 1 to 6. You can retest every 21 days. One section, okay, this is just kind of to look at the format that there is available. Okay. Analytical writing is one section and 2 separately timed 30-minute tasks. So you must analyze an issue and analyze an argument, support ideas with relevant reasons and examples, and examine claims and accompanying evidence. Articulate complex ideas clearly and effectively. Okay. Provide focused responses to questions. And your score, as I said, it should be 1 through 6, reported in half-point increments. Okay. Oh, what happened there? Oh, I don't know what happened, guys. Let me see here. Okay. All right. I hope you can still see that. I'm not sure what happened. It might be because of the phone. Verbal reasoning. You have 2 30-minute sections, 20 questions in each of these sections. So it's kind of, you can see how there's relation between the SAT and the ACT here too. So reading comprehension, text completion, and sentence equivalence, okay? Analyze and evaluate written material and synthesize information obtained from it. Analyze relationships among component parts of sentences and recognize relationships among words and concepts. Again, 130 to 170 reported in 1-point increments. Quantitative reasoning, 2 35-minute sections, 20 questions in each of these sections. Quantitative comparison, multiple choice, and numeric entry. Interpret and analyze quantitative information, solve problems using mathematical models, apply basic mathematical skills and elementary mathematical concepts of arithmetic, algebra, geometry, and data analysis. Okay. You'll see you'll have an unidentified unscored section that does not count towards your score, but may be included and may appear in any order after the analytical writing section. There's also an identified, research section that may be included in place of an unidentified unscored section. The research section will always appear at the end of the test. The questions in this section are included for the purpose of ETS research. Okay, so ETS is the company that offers the GRE and will not count towards your score. If you want to learn information, please go to takethegre.com/overview. Registration offered multiple times a month. Okay, there are test centers in Johannesburg, Durban, and Cape Town. I believe the Johannesburg and Durban ones are also CTU sites. I think Cape Town is Skylar. But when you go online, you'll be able to find the test centers. GRE registration is done online at ets.org/GRE, and the current cost for it is about $205. Additional resources, go online for free resources to study and practice mock tests. So go to ets.org/GRE/prepare. You could start a study group, with other graduate students, put a call out online or, on our Education USA site, maybe comment and ask. You could purchase a study guide from either Durban or Johannesburg, or you can borrow books from any of the 3 advising centers. Okay, I did not mean to press on the website there. Some of the other common standardized tests, so there's the GMAT, so the Graduate Management Admissions Test is required for entrance to most MBA programs. It's computer-based, 3 sections, writing, quantitative, and verbal, scores of up to 800, It's about $250. It might have gone up a little bit in price, and if you want to send additional score reports, you probably have to pay a little bit extra, but registration would be done on mba.com. TOEFL, the test of English as a foreign language is by far the most popular English language test for applying to US universities. It's completely internet-based now. There's 4 sections: reading comprehension, listening comprehension, speaking, and writing. Each section is out of 30 for a total of 120. Minimum for US studies, generally 80 points, unless you're going to an English language program. Offered in many cities throughout South Africa, so do have a look on the website for it. And cost is about $215, and could be a little bit more with some processing fees. Register, again, it's also an ETS test, much like the GRE, so ets.org/TOEFL this time. General rules for you to be aware of. Take multiple practice tests in a timed environment. I think if anything, if you just take multiple, understand the strategy of the test and the format and the structure of your test that you're taking, and take multiple practice tests that you can get for free online or in a study book if you choose to buy one, and actually time yourself in that environment, you can start to see a pattern and progression. All right, take a test right off the bat to kind of see where your weak areas are, and then you can also start drilling yourselves in the areas that you may be weak in. At minimum, study for 6 weeks, probably about an hour per day. I would say have a good night's rest and don't study the day before. Give yourself time to decompress, maybe do a quick review in the morning before the test. Arrive early to your test center and don't forget maybe a cover up like a little jacket or something, because sometimes those rooms can be a little bit cool, and a snack with some water. Okay, and if you for the SAT and ACT, do not forget your calculators. Okay. Remember identification and your admission tickets as well. That is a very essential part of it. Okay. I'm going to open up to questions. I don't see anyone on with us. But what I will say is please feel free to go to educationusa.state.gov and look for an advising center. What I will do is I'll put the email addresses of each of the centers in the description of the video so that you could reach out to any of the advisors, but you could also look for us on Facebook at Education USA in SA. Follow us on Instagram at EdUSA in SA or EdUSA_in_SA. And we'd be happy to answer direct messages there as well. But thank you for your time today. I hope this gave you a very general overview of what standardized tests are involved with. And I just hope that you take a few key things away from you, is that content is one thing, and you probably will remember quite a lot of content, but the strategy of taking the test and the timing is where lies the rub. You have to practice. You have to take multiple practice tests. But I know you will do well, and I wish you all the best of luck. So from myself as Kay Powell, happy International Education Week, and I hope you all have an amazing weekend. Thank you. Bye.